all the participants. Am I audible? You can just let me know in the chat box. I, Professor Komal K. Desai, welcome you all on behalf of Agnel Institute of Technology and Design. And I would like to hand over the session to Professor J. William.
A very pleasant morning to all joined in this meeting. This is Dr. J. William, Professor and Head of EC Department, Agnel Institute of Technology and Design, Goa. On behalf of myself and my fellow colleagues, it is a great honor to welcome our proud alumnus of EC Department AITD, Mr. Vedant Mayankar, Territory Manager, Endoscopy Boston Scientific, 2016 passed out. Mr. Samuel D. Costa, presently Software Engineer, 2016 passed out batch. Mr. Jagdish Badikar, Software Engineer, Qualcomm, 2017 passed out from AITD. Mr. Basil Eldo, Technical Support Engineer, Citrix, 2019 passed out. And Mr. Shaunak Paikon, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Developer, TCS, 2019 passed out. I take this opportunity to thank all our alumnus for giving acceptance for our invitation to share their views and experience to the young aspirants. It is my pleasure for me to welcome our Professor Lakshmikant Bodekar, Register AITD, who is the backbone of our EC department, and faculty of EC department for this webinar on career opportunities for EC students. It is my pleasure to welcome our participants from various students from HSSC, SSIE, Diploma and engineering students, those who pursuing ECE, those who are aspiring to get into ECE, and students completed their graduation. After the graduation, many students can be left wondering what is next. There are a number of routes you can take after your studies, and everyone's journey will be different. You could reach for a job, or you can enroll for your further studies, or you can set up your own business. In these webinars, I think our speakers are going to share their wonderful experiences on what is the current scenario in the market and what are the skills required to get placement in the company. I hope that this webinar will be an eye-opening session for the students, those who want to pursuing and ECE graduates. Now, I invite our Professor Lakshmikant Bodekar to share his points in this room.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you. My name is Lakshmikant Bodekar, and currently I'm a faculty of Electronics and Communications Engineering Department, AITD, and currently looking after head of admissions, head of administration also as a registrar. So I welcome all the participants for today's webinar, and I'm really glad to see our alumni, Mr. Samuel, then Mr. Vedang, then Jagdish, Basil, and Shaunak. And these students, I mean, whatever I can speak today, I mean, it is always less than what they actually are capable of. So they were the proud alumni of our department, electronics department, and what to tell about them, they were always on forefront to help our current students. Okay, just to mention you in brief, they had conducted a lot of workshops for our current students, and based on recent technologies. So it's not like they passed out and they joined an industry. They have come back to deliver, and they contributed to our department in a major way. So I would like to thank all these alumni, 5 alumni, and with them, whoever is the team involved, I would like to thank them from the bottom of my heart, so that they are coming forward for such an initiative which will benefit the future students of AITD. I would like to speak in brief about our college, Agnel Institute of Technology and Design, which we started in 2012. It belongs to Agnel Charities Management, and there is in Goa there are almost 27, 28 institutes which belongs to Agnel Charities. It is spread across all over India. It is in Bandra, Vashi, Greater Noida. So it's almost spread across many states in India. And it has a long history, which I will not be able to complete if I speak here. When you select for our prospective students, I just want to say, when you select a particular college or a particular engineering stream, you have to look at few things which I would like to share today. You can look at the teaching learning methodologies that are used or that are there in our college. For example, we have one special technique for teaching learning, which is known as split class. What we do is we split the class into two halves so that we can give personal attention to each and every student. Although this will increase our workload, but still we are more concerned about our students' career and students' future, and they should understand the subject what we are teaching better. So this is our first unique thing, which is now applied by almost all the colleges in Goa. So I'm proud to say that we started it, split class, and it has benefited almost every student in our college. Secondly, we look at the we conduct coaching classes and we conduct remedial classes, okay, for the students who are little slow in learning. So this is another unique feature which we had started. Sorry. So this has helped in teaching learning process, and I'm proud to say today that if a student is joining AITD with a percent of 60% say, then definitely that student will pass out with an engineering degree with 70% and above. That's our achievement. Okay, so this is the teaching learning methodology aspects that people have to look into when you are selecting a college and when you are selecting a department inside the college. Department in the sense, the branch. Then the second thing that you have to look at is placements. So when you look at placements, because that's the most important thing for any student who joins the engineering profession. So when you look at placements, look at how many companies have visited, which are the companies which have visited the college. Usually placement happens in 7th semester. So all the companies, we have a training and placement cell specially dedicated for this placement activity, who invites different companies all across India to our campus. They come to the campus, they recruit students, they interview students, they recruit students, and the students are placed. So the number of offers, the numbers of students placed, that also you need to look in when you are selecting a engineering discipline. If you look at electronics and communication engineering discipline, I can proud. Hello, I am handing over the session to you, Komal.
Yes, sir. Okay, now I would like to invite our alumni, Mr. Vedang Mahekar, to carry on with the session.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to share my PPT, but I'm not getting that now. I'm not getting that option. I was getting it before to share my screen. Just 1 minute, please. I'm really sorry.
You're getting the present now option.
No, I'm not getting it right. So I'm just getting turn on captions. It was there before, but I had some net problems, so I've connected again. It's not coming right now. Just
Can we go to the next speaker, Basil?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. That's fine.
Okay, Basil, you can continue, and then later we'll come to Vedang.
Yeah, that sounds good. So first of all, hi everyone. It's really great to see such great participation. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you're audible, Basil.
Okay. So yeah, so hi, I'm Basil Eldo from the 2019 pass out batch, AITD ECE, and currently I'm working with Citrix Systems as a technical support engineer. right? So I believe that since all of you all have joined here, all of you guys are interested in engineering and want to know about what exactly do you have in your future once you join the ECE department, right? So first of all, as I see it, ECE department is basically like an all-rounder, right? So if you see the designation of all our alumni, like the speakers who've joined today, you can see a variety of job profile that has been displayed. So basically, I would like to call ECE as like an all-rounder. So you can get into software development, networking, and research. So it depends on what exactly your interest is in. First of all, I'd like to talk about a little bit of my company and my organization. So when we talk about Citrix Systems, it's a multinational company based in the US. It basically deals with virtualization technology and networking, right? So if you ask me what exactly virtualization is, as you know that because of the pandemic, a lot of people are working from home nowadays, right? So there are a lot of problems that people face due to working from home. One of the biggest problems would be how to protect the data, the organization's data. So one of the ways to do that is to secure the connection, with your company's servers and stuff like that. So virtualization basically allows you to be in the office while you're at home. So it's basically like you're in the office virtually. I don't want to get into the details a lot because it involves a lot of stuff, right? So just understand like this, virtualization basically, you can be at home, but access things which are not at home, which is far away from you in a very secure manner, right? Another thing that our company deals with is the networking. That's basically a product, NetScaler, which helps secure any communication that's going on, right? So that's basically like an overview of our company, how exactly it works. Now let me get into what exactly I do, right? So as you know, my designation is a technical support engineer. So technical support engineer doesn't have to develop things and do such things and all. What basically a technical support engineer does is to troubleshoot any issue that an organization is facing, right? So now there's actually, it can get a little confusing here because technical support, basically you'll have to pick calls. So it always, most of the times it gets clubbed with call centers and stuff like that. So first of all, no, it's not a call center. It's not like you're facing some issues with your Airtel internet and you just call up the Airtel internet guys and be like, oh, I'm facing some issues. It's not like that. Basically, technical support is purely, as it says, technical. So it's not going to be, obviously it does include, hello, am I audible?
Yes, Basil, you're audible.
Yeah. So as I said, technical support is purely technical, right? So it's not going to be like some customer from somewhere around the world is going to call you and ask you, oh, this is not working. How do I fix that up? So it's basically like you're going to handle an organization in a whole. So what we basically do is, so basically Citrix is a product-based company. So if there is some issue with the product that the organization is facing, so they reach out to us and we have to sit and fix our product, right? We have to troubleshoot. Oh, this server has gone down, or the software has issue in this part of the area. So it basically includes a lot of troubleshooting, right? So in such case, in technical support, organizations will reach out to you, and the people who reach out to you are the people who sit in the IT sectors, the networking sectors, which have already performed a lot of troubleshooting from their end, and they'll come to us for further troubleshooting, right? So first thing, you should know that it's not a call center. It's nothing like a call center. Okay, it's totally different. When we handle a case, it goes on for a few days because the issues are very, very complicated. It includes a lot of networking, right? So that's what basically our company deals with. And now when we talk about the work culture in Citrix is one of the best I've ever seen, like obviously because it was my first company, but so far about what I've heard and seen, Citrix is one of the best companies that has actually come to our college. The work culture is like, what do I say? It's really out of the world, you can say. You get so many benefits. Plus, it's really, really open and transparent. It's not how you may imagine it, right? So you can reach out to anyone in the entire organization. This total transparency, and yeah, there's a lot of room to grow. Now, if you're wondering why you should join ECE, like I said, it's like a very vast, like, you know, it offers you a vast possibility of jobs that you want to do. So if you know what exactly you want to work as, then you know which stream to go through. But if you are in a little bit of a dilemma, like, oh, what exactly am I supposed to do, which a lot of people are these days, like they don't know what exactly they want to work as. So EC is, I think, according to me, one of the best options, because you can switch into any field once you are in ECE, right? So that's one thing I want to say. And another thing is, don't believe the stigma that's around engineering a lot, that people don't get jobs and everything. So as far as I've seen in my college, in AITD ECE department, the placement rates has been so high. And there's always a difference, right? If you choose engineering and if you choose some other degree. So if you go to an organization, let's talk about my organization. I don't want to talk about any other organization for now. In my organization, if you see the people who have done engineering in ECE and people who've done other degrees, let's say, I don't want to name it, like BSc and all, but the salary slab, you can see the difference. There's a difference by a lot of margin, okay, like a huge margin. So don't let the stigma that's been in the society, like, you know, take you away from what you want to do. So that's all, I guess. If you guys have any question you guys want to ask, you can ask me. Anything you want to know about Citrix Systems? Anything about college?
Basil will have a question answer round at the end of the session.
Sure,
Okay.
sure, no problem. Yeah, okay. So I guess you can go ahead and invite the next speaker.
Yeah, so now I invite Mr. Vedant Michael to carry on with the session.
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you all hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Vedant.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just share a small PPT. I'm very sorry for the glitch that happened. There was some problems with the internet. Yeah, can you all see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. So hello everyone. Firstly, I would really like to thank the organizing committee from AITD, Komal ma'am, Bodekar sir, William sir. I can see Joshi sir is also here. I hope I'm not missing any other professor. Thanks a lot for considering me for this opportunity to interact with the HSSC students. I'm very sorry, the slide deck, I've just prepared it very quickly, so hopefully there are no mistakes and all in that. It's a privilege to give this talk to you all, though I feel I'm not really at that level. And looking at the panel of alums who are going to give this talk, I mean, they are, I would say, the subject matter experts in career planning with it be Samuel, Shaunak, and also I'm so sorry, I forgot the name. Yeah, Mr. Basil. Yeah. So maybe them. So y'all would get a lot of exposure to whatever they have spoken. I really like the way Mr. Basil he told you about what he's doing right now, and how these opportunities can really help you if electronics and communication engineering is something that you want to do. How it is really going to help you in your careers, and how it has really helped him, and how he's making the best use of it. So it was a very good talk from Mr. Basil. So basically, in comparison, I have done my EC, but then I moved on to do my MBA, and now I'm not really working in the EC field. I'm currently working with Boston Scientific. It is a medical device company. For those of you who don't know, medical devices is like when you go to the hospital. Actually, medical devices is a whole big umbrella, but I guess I can tell you in the electronic terms, if you see any X-ray machine, CT machine, any endoscopic machine, etc., all of these things are called as medical devices. and I work in the endoscopy division. So endoscopy is basically the main device is that it has a camera. You put it through your mouth, and then you can easily visualize the whole GIT, that is your gastrointestinal tract. So you can easily identify whether any diseases and all are there, and what treatment modalities can you use. So basically, I'm working as a territory manager. I'm handling the territory of Mumbai, and my work is to mainly show the doctors the advantages of using these devices. I would also be aiding the doctors into giving this care to the patient so that the patients get the best care possible. So this is just in a nutshell of what I do in Boston Scientific. And so basically how the ECE journey helped me, that I can explain in the next slide. So this slide shows how ECE really had an influence over whatever my career is, the trajectory of my career is right now. So in 2012 I finished HSSC.
Vedant,
I just yes,
sorry to interrupt. Vedant,
Tell
can
me.
you just present
Yeah.
the screen?
It's not presenting.
Are the participants able to see the presentation? Please answer in the okay. Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so in 2012 I finished my HSSC. I then decided that I wanted to do engineering. Actually, I wanted to do medicine since I have two doctors at home. My mother and brother both are doctors, but I could not get into that, and I will get into that later on. So this is especially to the 12th standard students to work harder. Whatever dreams that you all have, you all need to achieve that. Hopefully now. So you all work harder and use me as an example, because I didn't get it at that time. So I didn't work hard enough at that time in 12th standard, and I can admit it right now because I took active steps after that to improve my career. So in case things don't go your way, even that I can explain to you all how you all can get back on track. So I decided that I wanted to do engineering, still a good decision, and I chose electronics and communication engineering. So I did that for 4 years. After which, during my electronics and communication engineering, I decided that I want to do an MBA
Vedant,
because I felt that my skills, yes.
Vedant, sorry to interrupt
Yes.
you. Can you present now again? Present your screen again. Just say stop presenting and present the PPT again. Yeah, present the PPT again. Are you able to do the presentation?
Yeah, 1 minute, sorry.
No problem.
Can you all see my screen now?
No, we can't see the presentation. Say present now.
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay. It's
not
coming.
happening?
It's coming now. It's coming. Okay. Can you just
Yeah, the slides are
can you
coming.
maximize it?
Yeah.
Okay, now you can see. Thank you. You can.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So during my EC, I sort of gained a little bit of an interest in the biomedical engineering part of it. So that is another one of the subjects that is there under electronics and communication. So I then decided that I want to do an MBA. I decided that I want to do an MBA in healthcare management, especially because, as I mentioned, I wanted to get into medicine. And so I felt like this may be that chance to sort of get committed to that. I think somebody needs to go on mute.
Tejas, please mute your mic.
Yeah. So after that, I since I wanted to do an MBA, so this will sort of I can tell you all that this was another decision that I took. So I'm somebody who would want to who likes to learn a lot. So before I would want to take a decision, I would sort of take decisions sort of more up. So even though I finished my engineering, I got placed into a tech support role in IBM. But I decided I wanted to do an MBA, and because I wanted to do an MBA, I wanted to understand better about it. I took a job in HDFC Life. So even though I did engineering, soon after my engineering, I sort of took a different sort of path because I really wanted to understand more about sales and marketing before I joined my MBA. So I did a job at HDFC Life for 6 months around. Then I joined my MBA at Goa Institute of Management. where I further developed and improved devices, and I actively took steps so that I can join the medical device industry. So basically, as you can see, there are a lot of things that happened, a lot of career changes also that happened. And this is important to explain because sometimes, you may have a goal, but that may not always happen. So how you can adapt, or rather what other new interests that comes to you, how you can maneuver through from the current trajectory you have to that career path. So that is something that all of you need to understand. All of you need to have a backup plan. All of you need to, strive and work towards getting to your goals. So basically, just talking a little bit in brief on ECE, I'm sure the other panelists would explain it much more in detail. So one of the best things about electronics and communication engineering is it is a combination of hardware and software. So you are going to get the best of both worlds. You are also going to be working with a lot of things like integrated circuits, robotics, microcontrollers, complex circuit boards, etc. And at the same time, you are also going to get exposed to coding and the software part of it, where you're going to learn different Java, etc. So this makes a complete engineer who is ready to even enter the electronics field into hardware and also into the software industry. So that means that any company that is looking forward to hiring engineers, ECE can be preferred more because that person has the knowledge of both the things, and he can easily do both the things. So many of the alumni from engineering, from electronics and communication engineering, also join the IT and software field, and they do very well there because they already have a strong base. And since the companies know that this person also has an education about hardware, he also understands the machinery behind it. So that is why that person becomes a complete engineer, and that is why the preference is given to an ECE engineer over the other things. So this also helped me in my MBA also. So now, as you know, medical devices, the general requirements for them is that they need somebody who has done BSc in biology, or somebody who knows about the human biology more, because you are going to be directly interacting with doctors. So it is a engineers to get into it. But still, I could, sort of develop my interest. I did a lot of projects on it. I had to work much more harder to get into this industry, and I did that. But one of the advantages that I had is I had this ECE background, so I could understand devices better. I could understand the working of the devices better. So of course, I had to work harder to understand the biology part of it. I had to go to rigorous trainings. Even when I joined Boston Scientific, it was 3 months of full only training about the biology part of it. But when it came to devices, I could understand it much faster than the other people who have just done biology. So that is the sort of advantages that this sort of a complete course can give you, where it gives you a healthy balance between hardware and software, and that can even help you not only in this electronics industry that is there. It has helped me even after my MBA to get into companies. And not only the medical device industry, I have also friends who have gotten into consulting in Cognizant, Infosys, etc. Because again, when you're doing a business development or business analyst role, there is some sort of analysis, data analysis that goes into it, where you would need to do some programming with C, C++, etc. So that is again an advantage that ECE gives you. So you have many different advantages, and I'm sure that on this industry, the other speakers will speak more in detail. So moving forward, this is especially for the 12th standard students. I just a small sort of a diversion from ECE sort of thing. So this is the statement that all of you all must be hearing. Just do your 12th standard, and after that it's easy. And I'm very sorry, but I'll sort of have to shatter this lie that has been told to you all, because trust me, 12th standard is just the beginning. There is a lot more hard work that you need to do, and it is not just even if you get into ECE or something. Now let's just take that as a subject where you're getting into ECE. It is not just you do that 4-year course and you're going to get the best of jobs. No, you are going to have to continuously educate yourself. You're going to have to do multiple courses. You're also going to have to plan higher studies if possible. So right now also, I would want you all to plan not just the next 4 years, but the next 6 to 8 years, because that is the amount of time that you would need to complete your whole education, along with bachelor's, master's if possible, or some other courses that can actually help you all get much more ahead. So 12th standard is just the beginning. There is still a lot of journey left, and for you all to grow. So basically, what can you all do? So firstly is hard work and dedication. No matter where you are, you need to work. Give 100. So even if it is not something you wanted, you wanted something else, but you didn't get that. What you need to do is wherever you are at this young age, you need to be like a sponge. You need to learn from everywhere. So you need to give your 100% wherever you are. At the same time, you need to see how you can change project to what you want. That is the difference that is there, and that is something that you all need to actively work upon. So after that, after you set your mind that you are going to work hard and be dedicated, you need to plan your journeys. You need to set a path for yourself. That is what interests you and what's the backup you need to consider. And after that, the main final thing is you need to build yourself. And by build yourself, I don't just mean professional competencies, I mean the emotional competencies also, because companies today look for the whole personality of a person. So you need to really develop that in you. You need to develop your values, your morals, etc. Because companies want to look for somebody who is more ethical. Along with your values and morals, you need to participate in more extracurricular activities. The companies are not just going to look at your marks, etc. They are going to look at other activities. So even once you get into engineering, you need to do extracurriculars, you need to do additional courses, additional projects, etc. Only then will your CV be actually selected. And then also in terms of professional competencies, you need to set up, what is your further education going to be, what courses you're going to do, etc. And one of the main things that people forget while studying is actually one of the most important things is your communication skill. So if that is not there, then none of these things matter when you are searching for a job. So one of the most important things for you all to do is to improve your communication skills so that you can get better job opportunities. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope that I could actually just at least briefly touch up on how ECE has helped me to take a different career as compared to the other panelists. I'm sure that all of the other panelists will give a much more detailed explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vedang. That was really nice. I request all the participants to please put your mic off and your videos off, please. Please put off. Saish. Okay. Now I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Samuel.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, Samuel, you're audible.
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Samuel DeCosta. I work at Danfoss Power Solutions as a software engineer. So basically, I'm into the embedded development, which is the core of electronics. And yes, let me make this less of me and more about you. So why would you choose ECE? Okay. So first of all, does technology interest you? Not just like, oh, hey, there's a new iPhone, but what are its features and all of it? Is it just that? It's not that. It's way beyond that. So if you are someone who's interested into, how is this iPhone made? Then if you want to look into what's under the hood, then I think this would be a good opportunity for you. Okay. There should be what is required for this. That you should be curious about how these devices are made, how these devices get so smart. Earlier we used to roam with a 3310, that Nokia phone where you could break someone's head also with it. But nowadays these phones have got, so smart that it can do almost anything. So also moving on to the automotive side, there are self-driving vehicles. How do these part of it operate? What are the components that are used in the automotives? Are you really curious? These are just few industries that I've mentioned, which I will let you also know the industries that are there in the market a little later. So let me start off with, what is learnt in ECE? So ECE will first tell you how initially it will get your basics corrected. So it will get you started with the hardware. So it will tell you what are the different hardwares that are used and what you can do along with it. Then a little brief into digital electronics, then software programming, So this is usually EC people consider that, okay, programming is not for me. It is for the computer students. But no, but the knowledge of, software and hardware put in together is tremendous. The things that you can do along with both of these is amazing. Then moving on, it will also teach you about operating systems. So there will be different operating systems that you will probably learn, starting with Linux, I guess. Then you will also learn about different microcontrollers. What are microcontrollers? So for example, everything works. So even all the thinking capability that you do is done by your brain. And the brain of any device is its processor. And this processor, along with the other components that are used to make the whole phone, is called a microcontroller. So yes, that is what a part of it, what you will be learning about. Then you will learn about how to program these controllers. Say you have the authority to tell that controller what to do. So now when you're using your phone, so you will tell it something to do and it will do, but you created that program. So that is also what you will learn. Then there are different subjects like, telecommunication related, which are into satellites, televisions, then also biomedical electronics, as Vedang also has spoken about it. Yes, so these electronics that are usually used in hospitals. So this is just a gist of what I have told you that you will learn into electronics, but there is definitely much more than that. So now let me tell you, this is what you will learn. And let me tell you what are the industries that use these things. So consider these an industry into the aerospace industry, the electronics in the airplanes and all of it. Yes, ECE students are there. Information technology industry, yes, people move into IT as well. Telecommunication industry, like working into satellites and different other parts of telecommunication, yes, ECE students are there as well. Into the agricultural industry, so where you may not physically measure the soil purity of an agricultural environment, but yes, there are tools that you can use using the ECE knowledge over there. Yes. Then in the pharmaceutical industries, there are machineries that require very precise so they are very precise machines that are used to make capsules and all of it. Yes, these are the ECE engineers over there. Then into the food industry, healthcare industry, manufacturing industry, and the automobile industry. Yes, definitely in most of the industries, you will find there is an opportunity for ECE. Then, so what happens is, as Vedang has also mentioned, that you will have the knowledge of the hardware as well as the software. So putting that both together makes you a complete whole with the whole knowledge. And core companies which are purely into software also prefer ECE students over software only because of the reason that what is the hardware behind it and how it works. So what are the roles and opportunities that you will get in the market? So considering the hardware part of it, you will have hardware designing. So hardware designing is like if you have seen the motherboard of your computer, yes, something like that. So what is this component? Why is it there? Everything has science behind it. So yes, that part of it you will learn. Then hardware testing. So these are the roles in the market. So whatever is designed and made is tested. So yes, then there is PCB designing. This is the motherboard that I was talking about. The smaller version of it would be, a PCB that you could actually make by yourself. Yes, you will learn it over there. Then you will learn software development. Into software development, I would say like, software is like, so software programming languages like C, C++, Java is the base of the electronics industry, which is definitely you will learn over there. So C++ is used more into electronics and embedded systems, but Java also can be used, but yes, that gives you a start to move ahead with if you plan to go into the IT industry ahead. Then after software development, yes, there is software testing. So this is when I say software testing, I mean pure testing of software and not only not hardware included. Then there is embedded development. What is embedded development? It is the combination of the hardware and the software mixed together, and you program that hardware and you tell it what to do. So you're the boss there. So yes, that part of it is also learned over there. Then embedded testing. Then there are different tools over there, that for testing the software that you do over there. So the basics of it you will learn over there. Then systems development. So I have my colleagues into systems development. So they usually are into programming of the Linux kernel, or if it is on a Windows based system, so the Windows kernel, or you would be into so yes, so usually these are into securities and security part of it and all that. Then coming up to where most people can relate, I guess, is Android development. So Android development is one field that where you can develop Android based applications, iOS based applications. So Android iOS development. So these are just different languages that you would need to develop an application on one or the other platform. Then of course there are alumni over here who are going to speak in the future who are into AI and ML development. So I will not get into that. I think that the alum will speak about it. Then there are colleagues into database administrations. So what is a database, and all of it is the basics you will probably learn in ECE as well. Web development. Web development is not something that you will learn in ECE, but definitely this part of it is of computers. But ECE students definitely have also moved into web development, and that is what ECE provides. I mean, it as someone mentioned earlier that ECU makes you an all-rounder. Yes, you can move into that as well. So DevOps engineer, which is a combination of development and operations. So there are processes that are followed in companies, and yes, these part of it is also has a profile in the industries. And networking engineer. So these networking engineer, which you will have specific switches or routers at one place, and it will be distributed over the whole country. So that management part of it, of that network, is going to be your responsibility if you work as a network engineer. So, and there are various other opportunities as well in the market. So what is the usual expectation? What you 12 standard, 10 standard students will usually expect? How much will it pay me? So I would suggest, the pay is really good if you are good. So, and I would really suggest to not look at the initial earning, but learn to seek knowledge and experience, and definitely the pay will grow exponentially. So if all you 10, 12 students, or even the parents are concerned that of course money is really important, but it also matters how good the candidate is for that profile, and accordingly things work. So what will you get after doing ECE from AITD? So I would say that after graduating from AITD, you will definitely learn to walk with a strong foundation. Okay, and but what happens is the industries are running at a very high pace, and there are n number of opportunities in different industries. But are you willing to put that effort to catch up with these fast-paced industries? This I would leave up to every individual and his motivation behind joining ECE. Then the first batch of ECE students, and was in 2016, and I was one of them. I can say from first-hand experience that the college was well equipped back then with very knowledgeable professors, lab tools, and equipments that are used in the practical labs, which is a very important thing when you go into the industry, because your theory does not take you anywhere. And which is all these equipments that require to create a very strong foundation for its students. And that was right back in 2016. Okay. And I can't imagine what it must have grown into right now. So all the best to all of you aspiring engineers, ECE engineers. And yes, I wish you all the best again. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Now I would like Shaunak Parkane to continue with the session.
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, Shaunak.
Okay. So my name is Shaunak Parkane and I passed out in 2019 batch. Currently, I'm working as an artificial intelligence and machine learning developer in Tata Consultancy Services, which is one of the leading IT companies. And yeah, so before, like everyone has told about their domains, every speaker has given you brief description about all the digital electronics, analog electronics, communication domain. I will specifically stick to my domain, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, so before telling you how I joined ECE, one of the speaker, Vedang Mayakar, he said he was also interested in medical. So was I. I was also interested in medical field, but my hard work was not up to the mark to get into medical. So then I decided to do engineering. Now in engineering, there were many domains which were ahead of me. So computers is software only, mechanical is only hard dealing with hardware. So I thought electronics would be a better option because electronics is a all-rounder kind of, meaning you can switch to any of the domains of your choice. So I joined electronics, and in third year, I got interested in this domain of artificial intelligence. And in the fourth year, when I started with my final year project, which was based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, I developed immense interest in it. And my project guide, Professor Mridul Sawant, he also motivated me a lot. And then I continued with this domain, and now I'm working in this domain. So before going into the details of what domain I work exactly, I'll give you an insights of all the industries in which the artificial intelligence is applied. Okay. So first I'll start with social media. So in social media, whenever you upload, I'll take example of Facebook. Whenever you upload any picture on Facebook or a group photo, what happens is that you get boxes around face of every individual. And automatically when you go to tag person, the name comes automatically. So how that's possible? So that is all because of AI and facial detection algorithm or facial detection algorithm. Yeah. So now let's take example of Instagram. So if you are a sports lover, then most of your news feed will be sports domain. If you are a foodie, then most of your news feed will be food items. If you are interested in politics, so most of your news feed will be politics. So so that how that is decided. It is based on your whatever you have been watching. So that on base of that, the social media apps, they show you, right? The third example I'll give you about Twitter. So as you all know, Twitter is about an app of expressing yourself in short message formats. So there's one news that you might have read that they're using NLP, domain of artificial intelligence called as natural language processing. So using NLP, they have been able to find out 3 lakh accounts linked to terrorist activities, only based on the tweets that they are posting. Okay, and there is no human intervention, only machines are doing it. So you can see the extent at which artificial intelligence is helping us. Okay, now this is all about social media. The second industry that we are focusing on is virtual assistants. Now you will know the various examples like Siri, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, and they can help you to do any kind of jobs. They can book a cab for you, they can do weather forecasting for you, they can play favorite music of your choice, and so on. So the third industry with AI is applied is autonomous vehicle. And the leading autonomous vehicle industry is Tesla, as you all know. And how they are able to design the autonomous vehicles. It's based on the concepts of image processing and deep learning, wherein they can identify the objects or around the car, and so that car can move freely without any human intervention. Okay. So next one, the example in gaming domain. So we all might have played Counter-Strike, right? So in Counter-Strike, like usually we all start with the Dust 2 map. So I take example of Dust 2. So whenever we play Counter-Strike and we'll play as a counter-terrorist, so we all know that the terrorist will be there in the double doors. So we directly go there, snipe and shoot the terrorist. But if artificial intelligence is applied in gaming domain, as it has been done in a game called Fear, whenever you kill any bot, what happens in the next round is that the bot learns itself that, okay, the player had killed me at this position. So the next time when you start the game, the bot has trained itself and he will be in a different position. So as the game passes, the bot will train himself and the game will be difficult on every stage. So this is how AI has impacted in the gaming industry. So now next the industry is banking and finance. So like whenever there is any problem with any product that you're using, we usually call customer support and they solve our problem. Then a bank called HDFC, they have started their own customer support bot called as EVA. And whenever you call that bot, the bot solves your problem and gives you solution in less than 0.4 seconds. So this is how AI has helped in banking industry. Now next we are going to agro industry. Agro industry, okay. So there are many apps in agro industry which helps the farmers, meaning if a farmer feels that his crop is not up to the mark, and if he wants to check that if there is any problem with the trees, so what he can do is he can directly click a pic of the tree and post it on the app, and that app will tell the farmer which disease the plant is suffering from, and on basis of that he can contact the agriculture department and get the stuff. So the accuracy of that is about 95%. So we can see how AI has helped in agro industry. So next, coming to the marketing industry. As the marketing industry, I'll give you one example about Amazon. So whenever we want to book any, like we want to buy any mobile phones, what we do, we go to, we put the name of the company and pick that mobile and put in the cart. Soon after you do it, you just get notifications from Amazon that people who bought mobile also bought some things with it, like they bought headphones or they bought mobile covers. Now, how is company able to give you suggestions? It is based on the analysis of the previous customers that had bought, right? So this is how it is helping in the Amazon. Now I'll give you an example of Netflix. A study says that the 75% of whatever web series that you watch on Netflix were suggested to you by the Netflix based on the first web series or like first 5-6 web series that you watched. So this is how the industries are making profits. Okay. Now I'll give you one more example of a company called as Walmart. Okay. Whenever you go to any supermarket and okay, I'll give you an example. Like if you want to buy a milk or you want to buy eggs, what you will usually buy along with eggs? Definitely bread. Not every time, but yeah, probably the only thing that you can buy along with eggs is bread. So what companies do is that they keep bread, egg, and milk in a in a vicinity of each other, so that customer doesn't get any problem. Because if I am a customer and if I want to buy these 3 items, I'll buy milk at one point. If I want to buy eggs, I have go to other end. If I want to buy bread, I go to other end. But if companies, if they analyze the buying pattern of every customer, and then they analyze the pattern and then they keep the items together, right? Then the customer feels happy and customer will again go to the same supermarket instead of going to the other supermarket. And you will be surprised to know that company called Walmart, which is dealing with supermarkets, they are investing in billions of dollars on the engineers to design the algorithms which analyzes the buying pattern of customers, and this has definitely helped them a lot. Okay, now coming to the last and not last, there are many domains, but coming to the one of the domain wherein I am working is law enforcement. So currently I'm working with a product called as FACTS in TCS. FACTS is fingerprint analysis and criminal tracing system. So you might have seen in movies or in like series, like there, and if there happens any crime or murder, then they pick up the fingerprints and they show you on PC that the fingerprint is on one side, and they match it with the series of fingerprints, and that they find a match and say that, yeah, this is the criminal. So exactly what they show is the domain which I'm working on. So what I work on exactly is reducing that matching time between the fingerprint of a criminal and fingerprints in the database. So for that, I deal with a technology called as deep learning and image processing. So I also work with Gujarat Police with crime pattern analysis, meaning, you'll be surprised to know, but we can predict what crimes will happen if we have the data of previous crimes with us. So yeah, it is working very well. So this is the domain in which I work. Now, how ECE will help you to like switch to artificial intelligence and machine learning domain? So I was also not knowing that I will be working in AI when I joined ECE, but when I reached in 7th, 8th semester, then I got some optional subjects which developed my liking towards the AI more. So first, the prerequisites of machine learning and AI, first thing is obviously programming. And any ECE engineer knows programming because there are many subjects like C, C++, Java, which are in ECE syllabus, which will help us to understand programming. Okay, but in artificial intelligence and machine learning, the major language that we deal is Python. So in one of my subjects in 8th semester, digital image processing, we were introduced to Python by our professor. So yeah, I learned basics of Python there. Secondly, to deal with artificial intelligence and machine learning, you require a strong mathematical background and analytical skills, and also statistical like inference. Okay, so yeah, there are many mathematical subjects. Like we have 4 to 5 maths in the engineering syllabus, so which will help us to develop. And yeah, there is one more subject called as probability, which will help us a lot to deal with real life examples, to write algorithms for real life examples. Okay. Then next I'll talk about is the deep learning, which I said. So the main thing on which the deep learning is based is neural networks. And in ECE syllabus, there is a subject called artificial neural networks, which gives you basic idea of how the neural networks are, complex neural networks are built. I think according to the new UGC syllabus, they have introduced more complex things like soft computing along with artificial neural network. So definitely it will help the ECE students to learn about machine learning, artificial intelligence basics, so that if you are interested in this domain, you can do it very well after your engineering. So yeah, that's it from my side about artificial intelligence and machine learning domain. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaunak. That was really nice. Now I welcome Mr. Jagdish to carry on with the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. Myself, Jagdish Padikar. So I'm a 2017 pass out ECE. So currently I'm working with Qualcomm. So the major domain I work on is in test automation. So majorly I'm work on with Python programming language. So what are the job roles ECE engineer can get? So I'll start off with explaining about a product life cycle, mostly with about a telecom product. So at the various stages of a telecom product, what all stages are involved, and what all job roles or does a ECE engineer can get. So okay, first let me talk about this. The main telecom product can be a cell phone. So what is the main aim of the main feature of a cell phone is to help us or facilitate in distance communication. So when we have this, so in order to achieve this distance communication, you'll have something, electronic technical term, we call it as a modem. So this modem is actually an internal electronic system. Okay, so how do you go about this design of this modem? So what are the concepts you require? So in order to design a modem, what all things you require is a good concept of digital electronics, concepts of you can say electromagnetic waves or antennas you might have heard. Next is also the VLSI. So all these three domains are required in order to design a modem. So when you go about designing a modem, there are many things you have to like first design the circuitry. In electronics, whatever circuits you see, whatever PCBs you see, it's and the general term which is used is the circuitry. So this is mostly a digital electronics. So once you have the so how you go about the design, you have to identify the components. What is every component will be what every component has to do. So for that there is the what all semiconductor devices in that component will be required. So okay, I have the all the components. So I have to again, in order to get a modem, there will be
Okay.
multiple sub modules. So these sub modules, I'll be interfacing them. So all this step, whatever I've explained now, comes at the stage of hardware design. So what all an EC engineer role here in this stage is, he has to know the VLSI concepts, he has to know the digital electronics, he has to know electromagnetic related stuff, and yeah, these three major things. And these three major things are covered in this EC branch. Okay, now once I have done my hardware design is ready, so I have to get the hardware produced or manufactured, you can say. So this processing of manufacturing of the hardware, actually in India it doesn't happen. It's usually coming from US, but with this domain is completely VLSI or semiconductor electronics sort of. So okay, now I have the hardware, I got the hardware. So next stage I move on to is the hardware testing. So here also what we require is the concepts of digital electronics, which you get in the course of EC. So here also you have a job, EC has a job to do in this stage of this product cycle. Now after you have done the you have got the hardware. So just having the hardware, it's not enough, right? You should have some software, because if you want to achieve something, just having the hardware is completely, you can't get any good outcome from that. So we have to have a software which will be running on this designed hardware. So at this level of software, you have two categories. One is called as firmware, and one is software or application. Yeah. So so at this firmware, so like previously Samuel told, there is Linux kernel, these things, Linux kernel, OS, operating systems. So that comes under firmware. So this firmware, when I say about firmware, what you need to know is the embedded systems, which obviously is a part of the EC, and also you have the embedded systems programming, C, C++. So this thing is also part of the EC. So once firmware is done, so what basically a firmware does is, you have as I said, when you design a modem, there will be sub modules. So in order to interact with these sub modules, you will require a firmware. So this firmware is done. So again, there is also a step of firmware testing. Again, you have the EC engineer having an opportunity in this area. So okay, once firmware is done, now we go to the next, which is called as software or application. So I have a modem. So obviously a modem will have all the processor, and this on this processor you will have a firmware, which will help in balancing out interfacing all the subcomponents. So then what will be my software? So if you see in a telecommunication or a smartphone, how it happens is you have this radio signals and you have these towers and all. So your device has to communicate with the tower. So how this communication happens? There is a set of protocols standardized. There is something called as 3GPP body who tells, okay, this is how this these two things will be communicating. So this is modeled as a software on the modem or on the processor which you have designed. So again, this application is written in C and C++. So obviously, once you have the hardware designed, you need to know how that hardware is designed, what all things I need to know about the hardware. So this, and on top of that, you'll be writing this application. So again, here obviously you require a C++ knowledge. So this is also part of EC course. So okay, once my hardware is done, my firmware is done, my software is done. Next step is I have to now, okay, so my entire product is ready. So in order to, I have to deliver it to the consumers, right? I have to do a thorough testing. So at this stage, we go on the stage of testing this. So at this point, so what all happens at testing stage? You have here two types of testing phases. One is either manual or one is automated. When you say about manual, you have obviously you need to know the entire telecommunication concept, also the digital electronics concept, and little sort of some concept of programming, little, not much, meaning at the manual hardware testing, I mean. So it's like that whatever 3GPP body I have said, it has defined some standards. So we'll look at the standards and you'll verify it, okay, whether my hardware is working in that manner or no. So this is at this stage of the manual testing. Second stage is automated. So automated testing is every time you can't okay, have a system with just a moment. I will just, there is battery low, I'll just plug my system. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Yeah, next I was telling is automation testing. So in automation testing is we can't have every time a manual tester testing the same thing again and again. So all this whatever manual intervention was there in the testing domain, that entire thing is automated. So when I say automation, you will have a how, like when you say about a cell phone, it's an end product. So if you want to do a testing, you have to create an environment. So what will be the environment? You have to create an environment of where there is a cell tower, there is a tower, there is some multiple users, and also there are some radio conditions. I'll be trying to keep minimal technical jargons. So all these are simulated into a lab environment. And this automation testing, obviously there will be a framework written which takes care of this entire automation. So the most probably automation is written in Python programming. So that is the major part I am working on. So yeah, this automation testing entire thing is here also you get a an EC engineer has a role to play, because the end product which he is testing is actually a embedded system, and you have to test that embedded system and the software which is written on that. So you require obviously sort of telecommunication concepts and also the programming. So these two things. So once, okay, fine, my automation testing is done. So now I have to validate, so I have to check the performance of a device. The device which is ready, I have to check the performance. I have to check, okay, what all issues that device might be getting. So at this stage, what we have is this developers, there will be something called as logging system. So whatever software is running in a hardware, there will be some files created. This is, in general, it is called a logging system. So based on this loggings, you come to know, okay, whether my hardware or software is performing correctly or no? Is it matching the expectation? Is the performance correct? All these things you get it into a logging system. So there is also, on top of this, there is also we apply machine learning. So what it does is it will collect all the logs, and there will be a model created by using a machine learning algorithms. So based on that, what it will do is it will tell you, it itself will analyze the logs and tell you what all issues it has observed. So here also there is a part of machine learning domain which comes here. So as of now, machine learning is almost used everywhere in almost all industries, and this is a particular we can say technology evolution. It's a trending evolution. So here also you have EC profiles, EC engineers working in these roles also. Okay, so now this was done. All the firmware, all the software, all these things are done. So, but there has to be a system. There has to be some procedure to maintain this software, to maintain this firmware. Like for example, suppose I've given a product with some software with a version A, and I have released it to the customer. So suppose there is some critical issue coming, so I have to actually fall back. I have to fall back to my previous software, which was actually working. So this maintenance of all the software is actually taken care by a DevOps engineer. So here also in DevOps engineer also, EC engineers also get a job to play. So yeah, this was so if you see, when you have a product design, these are the various stages and at the various departments where an EC engineer can get a job and has a role to play. So yeah, so this was like a brief about particularly to a telecom domain. So yeah, that's it. And I would like to thank organizing committee of AITD for taking such an initiative to make students aware of what all opportunities or which all opportunities are there. So this is a great thing, because I remember when I was going through the process of joining engineering, I had never decided that I have to go in this branch because I was not aware. At the point of selecting the seats, I just opted for EC, but I don't regret that choice. I have done a correct choice of taking up with engineering. Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you, Jagdish. I, Professor Komal K. Desai, on behalf of Agnel Institute of Technology and Design and EC Department, would like to thank all the speakers for your valuable reviews and opinions. I would also like to thank all the enthusiastic participants for attending this session. I would like to thank our HOD, Professor J. William, and Registrar AITD, Professor Bodekar sir. Thank you all once again. The feedback link for the session is shared in your chat box. Also now we'll be having question and answer session. So if any participant is having any question, please you all can answer. You can unmute yourself and ask a question, or you all can ask the question in the chat box. Anybody is having any question to ask? There was one question from Rupali Bamne ma'am. All are talking about after degree job opportunities. Anyone can focus on diploma pass out EC in Goa. Can any of the speakers or Bodekar sir answer this? Hello, am I audible? Ramdas sir, please stop presenting your screen. Hello, am I audible?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, one of the participants has asked, do we have opportunity to join ISRO through EC?
ISRO, right? So I think in our batch, last, I think 2018, we had a field trip to Bangalore, right? So we had an industrial visit, actually, correctly to mention it. So we had visited ISRO during the same time. And yes, if you do your ECE, and if you, so obviously there is a bare minimum percentage that you need to maintain. If you have the bare minimum percentage, you can get into ISRO as well. They have an entrance exam also. So yes, you can join ISRO if you are really interested. Then yes, but please make sure that you maintain your percentage, because that is one of the criteria. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Okay, there's another question. What is the current situation in Goa for electronics industry?
I think before that we have Amogha's question. Do we have opportunities? No, sorry. Any scope for medical electronics in Goa, by Pramila, I think, right?
Yes.
So for medical electronics, see, I'm not the best person to answer this right now. I think Vedang will be able to answer this.
Vedang?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have, we do have manufacturing plants in Goa for some of the medical devices. Mainly, I think Siemens is one of the biggest device manufacturing plants that we have in Goa. But I'm not really sure from an ECE perspective, what scope is. I'm really sorry, Pramila. Maybe I can, I'll find out and connect with you. I know from a business, from an MBA perspective, there's not much scope in Goa because of only manufacturing plants. But from an engineering perspective, I don't know much about what is the scope of it in Goa.
I think,
otherwise,
can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sorry. There are, as of I know, there are 2 companies which are working in medical electronics. In fact, 3 companies, and 2 are startups, and I think one is a well-established company. I think we have initially it was German Remedies. Yeah, German Remedies. This is a company which is actually now it's the name has changed. That is one industry. Second is Kellos Engineering in Ponda, which is a startup by Mr. Gajanan. So they are working in medical electronics. And the third one is also in Ponda, if I believe. Professor Srinivas, I think Srinivas is our training and placement officer. If he is online, he can brief you about these 3 companies which are in medical domain. So it's not like there is no scope in medical electronics in Goa. There are companies, we need to explore them. Also, talking about question of Madam Rupali regarding diploma students. So I would like to say that diploma in electronics and communication engineering also has a scope in industry, because when they recruit for diploma students, they look at a certain level of employment. But when they join industry and then they realize that there is something, they realize that if they would have done degree, it would have been better for them in terms of promotion. So that's how there is scope in electronics and communication engineering, but you will be at a particular level. If you want to rise above that level, you have to come to the degree. After doing diploma, you can join degree direct second year lateral entry. Seats are available in all 5 engineering colleges in Goa in electronics. So I feel there is scope for electronics in diploma also.
Thank you, sir. There's another question. What is your view on the learning curve once you all start working? Once you all started working?
I think you missed out a question of Ketan. That is, what is the current situation in Goa for electronics industry?
Yes, okay.
So basically about Goa. So Goa recently have come up with a lot of new startup companies, right? So I'm not able to comment on the currently established like really big companies, but there are a lot of emerging new startups which have opened up. And as far as I remember, in AITD, we have the SIBA cell. Over there, there's this person, Maxwell Sir. He also basically has a startup which deals with drones and stuff. So basically, yeah, it's emerging. It's becoming big, but it will obviously take time in Goa. If that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Basil. There's another question. What is your view on the learning curve once you all have started working?
Yeah, can I?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Shauna, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Shauna. Yeah, so about this answer about the learning curve once you all started working, I think contrary to popular belief, learning curve for me at least, it has really increased much more, because I have realized that right now I've become very career centric, because I know what goals I have in mind. I know that I'm on the right trajectory towards achieving my goals. I'm on the right industry and whatever I was really interested in. So I know that for me to get better, to get promoted to higher positions, I need to do these courses. So even though I've gotten a job now, everything is going on very well, I'm still doing additional courses because I really want to get to the higher levels. I don't really know the other panelists much, but I know Samuel well enough because he's my batchmate and friend. So I know that even Samuel did additional courses. He's working. He did a specialized course on embedded systems, etc. And now he's working in that. So once you get career specific, the learning curve won't ever decrease. It just gets even more deeper for the person. So that is my thought on it. So once you start working, once you set your career, your learning won't ever stop, and you would want to do much more to get much higher. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I want to just tell us that learning never stops. Learning, whether we are bachelors, we are masters, or even we are PhD, learning should continue. And as far as my company is concerned, wherein we are told continuously to learn, meaning in this lockdown period, we were told to spend extra learning hours because most of us are at home. So we were told compulsory. We were given a set of courses which we have to do. Okay, so if you are working in a particular domain, then you can improve the domain knowledge. Or if you want to do your higher education, then yes, you can definitely prepare for it side by side. But if you are working in a particular domain, the trend of the technology is always evolving. So you have to always learn new things. So I think yes, it will be better that you continue learning and never stop learning. Yeah, that's for.
So even I had a take for Terence. So Terence, basically, as you know, industry it evolves very rapidly. So you cannot, your learning curve can never go flat because industries evolve at a very, very high rate, right? So there's always something. Every day there's something or the other that comes on new. So if I talk about my company, Citrix, every now and then a new product comes in. So we have to learn about it. Plus, the company always would want you to do certifications because the better you get at the technology and the more you know, basically it's the better for the company. But one thing here is while we were in college, we had a broad area where we had to learn. But once you get into the company or an industry, that domain narrows down. So your learning curve should actually shoot up even higher because the domain in which you're actually learning has shrunk, right? So obviously, once you start working, the learning curves grows exponentially, I would like to say.
Thank you, Basil.
Even I would like to add here. Yeah. So actually, regarding the learning curve, if you want to achieve your growth, meaning if you want to achieve higher positions in whichever organization you are working on, so you have either two options. Meaning one option is you have to update your skills. So how you can do is either what you're working, you improve on it. The second thing is learn new things, because this is how it keeps you growing up, because there are so many engineers working. So in order to you have to stand out, right? You have to have that skills. So yes, and also in my organization there are people who continue their day-to-day work. Also they make some time to learn other things, and also they are innovating some stuffs. So when they innovate, it could be which helps the organization, but when they innovate some things, they get also the organization helps in patenting stuff, everything, and also you get remuneration also. So based on whatever count of innovations you do. So yeah, learning curve, it depends all on the engineer. He has to, in order to grow, he has to keep the learning curve.
Thank you, Jagdish. There's another question. How can an ECE engineer contribute in aviation department? How can an ECE, I think Samuel?
Yes, I'll take this up. So actually what happens is in aviation department, there are also equipments that they use which are into technologies like radar, radio, navigation, and all different kinds of things that they will be needing. So there can be companies that are into making those devices. There can be companies that are into making and servicing them, or providing them support and all of it. So yes, so the whole development procedure is very critical when it comes to avionics, because there are a lot of safety features also that are needed because of that, because it can be life threatening, and it could so that is the level of avionics engineers, I think, that they work into electronics from the EC.
Okay, thank you, Samuel.
Komal ma'am, I think we've missed
Yeah.
out on one question that Saish had asked. For any diploma in
Yeah.
electronics engineering, is there a good scope in Goa, and will it be able for an electronics engineer student to join Navy? So, so yeah, Saish, yes, for an ECE student, there is good scope in Goa. It's not like there's no scope at all. There is. Plus, now the question about joining Navy. Yes, you can join Navy after your electronics engineering. You can either go via the university entry scheme, that is called the UES scheme, or after your degree, you can answer the CDSC exam. Right, so these two exams, these two schemes are there to enter any of the defense services, whether it is Army, Navy, or the Air Force. So after diploma, I'm not very sure whether you can do it, but yes, after the electronics engineering degree, you definitely can do either of the two schemes. You can go for UES, I think, is a short-term course, plus CDSE is like the permanent course. So if that helps.
There is also a technical entry, it's called TES scheme, where I think in the third year, or I think it's in the second year end or third year start somewhere, where they hire EC candidates or candidates from engineering into that. So which reminds me of, I had also applied for this post, and unfortunately I did not clear it, but yes, I did go for the interview, which was held at Allahabad, and this thing had also come via AITD. So yes, opportunities are there. You just have to take it.
Thank you. There was another student asking, can I join ECE after medical electronics? Yes, you can join ECE after doing medical electronics. Another question is, how can ECE contribute to rocket science industry?
So as I think one of the questions earlier, whether you can join ISRO. So if you end up joining ISRO, then obviously you'll be contributing to the rocket science and helping the Indian like ISRO to grow. So basically, if you take EC, you do have a very good chance to contribute in the rocket science domain. So yeah.
Okay. Another question, is the transition from a student to an employee difficult?
I think I can take that up. Actually, it is not as easy as it looks, but so what happens is, even when I got into my embedded career, it was not just straightforward. So there was a lot of work that you have to put into, because I initially started into as a sales manager at Decathlon. So because I was very much into sports at that time, and I was very passionate about sports as well. So yes, I joined Decathlon, but then later on I realized that that retail job is not what I'm looking for, since and my inclination was towards electronics, and there was less scope for me from there to move on into electronics from Decathlon. There is scope, but the opportunity was very less over there. So yes, then after that, I joined as a data quality engineer with the hopes of that which was into we used to provide back-end support kind of for survey management of rigs, oil rigs that are based in the US. So yes, their survey management part of it I was into, and with the hope of in the future that I would get into the survey management. So actually how the electronics takes the surveys in and all of it. But unfortunately in that this thing, it was not the case. In that firm, it was not the case. So then after that, I also felt that I have wasted like 2 years. But the time, that the phase that I was passing through at that point of time was it was not wasted. And now at this position, once I'm here, I can say for sure that those experiences have definitely helped me to look at things in a different way in my organization currently. So yes, the way may not be straightforward for you. It may take a year or two, but it's never too late, I would say. And but just do what you love. And yeah.
I would like to add to what Samuel just said, Rita. Basically, when you're a student, I know you have in your head like, oh, whatever I learned in college, how do I apply into a company which I'm going through, right? So speaking for my company, they've made it very seamless. So once you get into a company, it's not like you'll directly start working, like you'll just get a desk job and you'll start. So companies obviously do take care of training their employees, right? So first thing that the company will do is they'll give you some sort of training or some sort of a heads up, like this is what you'll be facing, and they will be assigning you mentors. So they will exactly tell you what you've learned in your college, how to apply that in your work. So that transition in my company, at least, it was pretty smooth for me. So what I learned about networking in ECE, the same thing I had to apply it in work. So how did I have to do that? My mentor basically told me, because even she was an ECE graduate. So it was very seamless for me, very easy for me. So I think it depends from company to company, but like every company will take care that, okay, the employee knows what exactly he or she's going to face. So yeah, if that answers the question.
Thank you. Okay, last question we'll take up is, how has the work-life balance been for you guys in the beginning of your work careers in India? Is it easy or is it a lot of work?
Yeah, can I take this one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the work-life balance, I mean, everybody has this notion that, people are just working the whole day, but that is not true. You have 24 hours in the whole day. And another, notion of people generally is that if I don't get to go out in the evening, that means that my day is just wasted, and that I'm just working the whole day. But that's not true. Any company would have maybe 9 hours of work, or maximum if some project is due, etc. It may go up to around 12 hours. But you still have the remainder of the 12 hours. So people, my advice is that people should not, think about all of these, going out as a separate activity. Even the time that you have for yourself in the remainder of the day, even if you get to, get a good 8 hours sleep, I feel that is a good time for your own self, and that also should be considered in the life balance part of it. So you should not get demotivated. And also another thing to add here is that right now all of us are young. We have just started with our careers, so this is not the time to get comfortable with things. I mean, if you're not at the place that you want to be, then obviously you need to put in extra hours, do additional courses, see how you can get to the place where you want to be in. So, for example, when I was working with HDFC, so that was just something that I'd taken up. That was not my career plan. It was just something that I'd taken up before my MBA because I wanted to learn more about sales and marketing. So it was just a learning exercise for me. But that meant that even though I was working there, I still had my goals of doing an MBA. So I used to work there, come back and study for the entrance exams. So that is how it should be at this point. This is not the time to, really get comfortable with wherever you are. The next, so I guess from 12th standard, you are around 17. So the next 8 to 9 years till around your 25, 26 or 27, that would be the time to hustle and to hustle, to the maximum. So it is not really the time to be comfortable. So the work-life balance for now, I at least feel it should not really be too comfortable. You should have, after your work also, you should be able to work some more towards your goals. And that I would say that for the next 8 to 9 years after 12th standard, it has to be a hustle. Or rather, after engineering, once you get your job, it has to be a hustle. So yeah, it should be a lot of work. Even if it is not, it should be a lot of work so that you can achieve your goals.
I would like to add a little bit to that. So Guilford, basically, nowadays the companies, they know that they need to take care of their employees, and I think most of the company and the industry understands that, because they cannot make an engineer work like a laborer, like hard labor. They cannot make them do that. So the industries, they understand that they need to take care of their employees. So they obviously have a lot of thing and a lot of time and money invested towards maintaining that sort of a balance towards for the employee. Like talking about Citrix, we have 5 days of work, and 2 days we get off. So in that 2 days, they would never disturb you unless obviously you have taken up to do work on those days. Plus they obviously will be organizing get-togethers and meetings and a lot of activities within the organization itself. So as far as the companies nowadays, they do understand that they need to take care of their employees, and I think that's helping to keep the engineers happy while they're working in the industry. And obviously, just as Vedang said, this is not the time to be comfortable. So the companies are doing their bit. So it has been easy, but obviously we have to put work from our end also. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you. I think it was a wonderful session. Thank you all the speakers once again. I would like to end the session now. Thank you all the participants.
Thank you, Komal ma'am.
Yes, thank you, baby.
Yeah, would that be all? Is it okay if I can lead the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you all the participants and the organizing committee for letting me speak. Thank you one and all for this opportunity.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Komal ma'am, and thank you, sir, for giving the opportunity. And thank you all the participants.
Thank you all the speakers, and thank you all the participants.